Hello and welcome to an overpaid over the bar look back at the World Cup 2026 semi-finals and forward to the final and world and third place playoff with me, Anthony. The third place playoff, of course, doesn't matter, but if you're still playing fantasy football, the World Cup FIFA game, it does matter a lot, and I'll explain why later. First of all, I want to have a look at the semi-finals in terms of what happened and why. Um, and as an Englishman, it's not easy to talk about. And a lot has been said already about why England lost. And I don't need to repeat most of that, but I will refer to it. First of all, let's look at the game between France and Spain. Now, if you watched my last video, I said, and these were my exact words, don't be surprised if the France forward line doesn't get the service, doesn't get the supply that it's been getting throughout the tournament. I didn't say Spain were going to win, but I did say don't be surprised if they do, um, because their midfield will control the French midfield. This is what I said. I said that's what I thought would happen. So not many people were saying that before the game. So I do want to take credit for that first of all. And this was as much a one-sided game as you could possibly expect. I mean, nobody would have expected such a one-sided game in a match where both teams had so much talent. And arguably, France had more player for player than Spain did in terms of top grade players. But Spain's organization and teamwork, and especially their work off the ball, ensured that France got quite quickly frustrated. And once that penalty was conceded and scored, after that, France seemed to lose their way and they were trying through balls that weren't working. Alicia in particular had a bad game in terms of trying passes that weren't on, but of course they weren't on because of the Spanish work rate in terms of covering. And this is something in modern football which is really, really important. It's as much important as having those star players. And it's a reason why certain teams in the Premier League do really, really well without significantly huge name players. Teams like Bournemouth, teams like Brentford, yeah. It's a reason why if you organize and cover and do it at specific times. So obviously you can't press all over the pitch for 90 minutes. You have to press at certain moments in certain areas of the field, and everybody has to know what everybody else is doing. And if one player is not on board, you got a problem. And France have had that situation a few times where one or two players are not as actively defending as they should be from the front. And in this game, it very much went in Spain's favor. There's not a lot to say, except that one of the magic moments of the World Cup for me was Dani Olmo's wall pass, as we used to call them. I don't think they call them that anymore, but when the ball comes to you and you just stun the ball, it was hit fairly hard at Olmo, and he just stunned it 2 or 3 meters in front of him perfectly for Pedro Porro to run on and beat the goalkeeper, which I must admit I wasn't expecting because he's not. I didn't have him down as a one-on-one finisher, Porro, but that really was a great goal to watch. And from that moment on, France had nothing to offer. Spain go through to the final now as hot favourites. In the final, they will play Argentina. Now, this game also I predicted. I mean, there's a few things I have predicted well in this World Cup in my videos, and I mean, I feel like there were things that not everyone was saying as well. I mean, from the start, I predicted Brazil to go out early. There's a few other things. I don't want to blow my own trumpet. Obviously, I do want to blow my own trumpet, but I'm just saying, okay, I did get some things right. And in this game, I didn't predict Argentina to win. I predicted Argentina would have a go at Bellingham, and they did that very early in the game. I said they would try and wind him up. He did really well, as did the other England players. During the first half, there was a lot of little fouls and very clever fouls by Argentina. This is part of football, knowing where the line is for a yellow card and just going close to that line and not crossing it is very clever because it frustrated England a lot in the first half. And it looked like England were the only team trying to play football here for a while. But as I said, England stood up to it well. They didn't lose their rag. It reminded me a bit of the game in 2002 in the group stage where England beat Argentina. Um, and Argentina were winding English players up all the way through that game, hoping that English players would explode, as did David Beckham in 1998, when, of course, Diego Simeone irritated him and he lashed out and got a red card. So that didn't work. However, second half was a completely different game, and it was a if you were a neutral, actually, this was a great game to watch. I mean, I'm imagining in this world of being neutral. I'm not sure anyone was neutral watching this game. England have their haters. Argentina have their haters. I think a lot of people were rooting for one team or the other, and a lot more neutrals rooted for England than I was expecting, especially here in Portugal. I went to watch this in a public place where the majority of neutrals were supporting England, which I mean I've never seen before as an English fan in a big game. So there's something there. Although I think worldwide, Argentina would have had more support than England, no doubt, and especially from our beloved neighbours, Scotland and Ireland, they would have really enjoyed watching this game, where England yet again failed at the crucial moment to step up and mark their sort of stamp their authority on a game. I won't say was there for the taking, but on a game where they could have imposed their authority. So not long after halftime, Anthony Gordon scores a great goal, great ball by Kane to Rogers. Rogers with a superb cross along the floor. And I'm not sure what the Argentina defender was thinking, but he just didn't anticipate somehow that Gordon was behind him, and Gordon nips in and places a lovely finish into the bottom left corner. Cue mass celebrations where I was. And at that moment, you're thinking England should win this because Argentina hadn't shown that much. They had started the second half pretty well, but they hadn't shown much to say that they would they would win this game. And then comes the most bizarre substitution of the World Cup. Now, there were a few of these substitutions against Mexico where England were leading by a goal, and Thomas Tuchel decides to bring on defenders for forwards. And Anthony Gordon, our only really player with any pace, was taken off for Ezri Konsa. And at that moment, I'm looking at the people around me going, oh, don't worry, he's going to bring on Saka in a minute. This is just, just to settle us down, and then we're going to bring on someone who can hurt them on the counter. But what happens later is more defensive substitutions. Now, Tuchel can defend himself all he wants at this point, but all England fans wanted in this tournament was to go for it, to actually just not look like we're the scared little cat when we're playing a bigger team. Go for it. We've got good players. We've got players in Rice and Anderson. I know Rice was substituted because he was knackered, and I'll come on to that in a minute. Players like Elliot Anderson who can control a game. Why didn't we see Kobbie Mainoo in this tournament? He would have been ideal to bring on in the second half of this game. And why didn't we see Ollie Watkins for Harry Kane on 75 minutes? Kane was doing absolutely nothing. You have to be brave if you're the manager. So ultimately, yes, we can say, okay, it was a few minutes more. We could have hung on and everyone would have said, okay, that's great. If somebody had closed down Enzo Fernandez before he's about to shoot, why was he left with that much space? That's not Tuchel's fault. That's the defenders on the left side. Somebody should have been closing down Fernandez before he shoots there. It's a basic. Get out to him. Yes, we can say that we might have held on and in that sense, nobody would be throwing the But we didn't, and there's reasons why we didn't, and there's it hadn't been that goal, it would have been a couple of others. Too many opportunities were given to Argentina to get this game back. Um, and we've got other excuses. I mean, Declan Rice and Bukayo Saka clearly not fit in this game. I mean, we didn't even see Saka, so we have to assume he just wasn't fit enough to play. But this also draws into question the manager's selections at the beginning of the tournament, because you're going into a tournament when you know certain players are tired and there are not enough other creative players having been selected. I mean, the obvious one for me is Trent Alexander-Arnold. I mean, I still don't understand that decision. However, all in all, we had some great moments as England fans in this tournament. And, especially the Mexico game and the Croatia game. I remember saying after the Croatia game, oh, look, we have a manager who didn't sit back when we were one goal in front. Yeah, when we went, do you remember we were 2-2 at halftime, went 3-2 up, and then we went again for the fourth. Yeah, we weren't afraid to have those players ahead of the ball at that point. I thought this is different now. Southgate's gone, and I loved him very much, but he didn't manage to attack when we needed to attack. This was much worse than anything Gareth Southgate ever did in a big game. If you compare it with England Italy in the final of the Euros, if you compare it with England France in the quarterfinals of the World Cup, our last two tournaments, this was much worse in terms of management. And I'm not saying Tuchel should be sacked. I am saying next time, please make sure we don't do that again. Okay. There, of course, were political elements to the win. Argentina holding up a sign about Las Malvinas to their own fans, which FIFA are now looking at. Evidently, there is a process in place at the moment to decide what should be done, because obviously you're not allowed to display political messages so overtly. Um, Remember that Harry Kane was told he would be given a yellow card if he wore a rainbow armband at the last World Cup, because it's political. Can't do that. So, I mean, this is much, much stronger than that. It's a much, much more obvious and provocative message. My feelings on the Falkland Islands I made clear in the last video. I'm not as, let me say, I'm not as totally decided on that as some other English people, but the Argentina government made a statement saying was for this win was a victory for everyone. It was a victory for the Falklands. Yeah. And then the English government replies with a message saying, good luck to everyone in the final, especially Spain. So it's really, the politicians are using it now as fuel for their popular support, which is obviously going to happen. Right. That is thankfully done now. We don't need to think about England versus Argentina. Uh, what we're looking at after that is the final and the third place playoff. Before we do that, I just want to show you what happened to my fantasy team in the semi-final. My overall rank is now 21k or 22k, so I'm about I'm close enough to the four-digit rank dream. Well, not really a dream for World Cup fantasy. It's not that important, but I would love to finish in the top 10k. It's not impossible. I moved up 16k this week or this game week, so it's not impossible. So I brought in Simon, who got me a clean sheet. I brought in Gordon, who got me a goal, and I played the maximum captain, which meant that the highest scoring player in my team received a captain's double score, which was in this case Anthony Gordon. A lot of people would have had it on Messi, so maybe it wouldn't be that different. Kane and Bellingham blanked, of course, as did the English and Argentina defenders, and the French completely blanked, really. So, how to do the next round? Now, this is the what is really, really important here. If you're still playing fantasy football at this point, I really want to impress on you the importance of this. Do not make any transfers until you see the team sheets for France versus England on Saturday night. The third place playoff will involve all kinds of strange selections, or not, I mean, not strange, but all kinds of alternative selections from both managers to give players a game that have not played. So there is absolutely zero chance, for example, that Declan Rice plays in this game. There's absolutely zero chance that any England player that's a little bit tired or injured will play in this game. And there's a few of those. So players like, I don't know, Konsa, um, Saka, there's a lot of players in this game that you can absolutely count out. But there will also be some players that get a game that we didn't expect. Now, you might say, oh, Ollie Watkins. Well, probably not. Because remember that Mbappe and Kane have goal totals in this tournament that they will want to increase in the third place playoff. Now, whether their manager decides to give them the run out, they probably will because they're not their club manager. They don't want to protect them in the future. I'm sure Bayern Munich fans or Real Madrid fans will not especially want to see them playing in the next game. But I reckon both Kane and Mbappe will be selected. But wait until you see the lineups for this game because you can make some interesting transfers. If you see a player come in you didn't expect, you can bring them in. There's how many transfers are there? Have you got to make transfers? How many? 6 free transfers, right? So if you've already got, well, you've already got a lot of players playing in these two games because nobody's left the tournament. So I've got a whole, all these players will be in the squad for the third place playoff. So my 6 transfers I could use especially involving players here for the third place playoff that look a good bet. I suppose France will beat England because it will be an open game. You know, it won't matter so much who wins and loses. And in that sense, you probably see the team with the most quality players winning it. And I would say France will score a few goals here. So I think players like Elise, if he starts, players like Mbappe or Dembele, if they start, are very good bets. But wait until you see the lineups before you make those transfers. Okay, right. On to the final, Spain against Argentina. Um, I have a prediction, and it's one word, and it's Spain. I don't see. I think actually the victory against England was so important and so emotional for Argentina that their fans won't even, having won the world's last World Cup, they won't even feel that deflated if they lose to Spain. They'll obviously feel deflated, but not on a level that it could be. And I don't see Argentina, if they play like they played all the way through the tournament, including the England game, beating Spain at all. And Spain are so like they're like a well-oiled machine that just knows exactly what to do in every inch of the pitch. I can't see this going any way except Spain, and I don't see it going to 120 minutes. I think it's going to be won in 90 minutes by Spain. I don't honestly. I would say a lot of people would be supporting Spain in this game, and on a political level, I can understand that, given the Spain of the Spanish government have got under the skin of a certain American president, and Argentina's political links in this tournament have been thrown into question. So then there's the idea that Argentina won it already, and it's Spain's turn. Some people find Spain's football boring. Some people love Lionel Messi so much they'd love him to see him win again. I'm not even sure who I'm supporting in this game. I'm going to have the luxury of watching this game completely to see what happens and to be happy that I can watch it without any stress. And football, as I said in the last video, is only football It's all it is. It doesn't mean if Argentina win, it proves any political point or vice versa. It doesn't mean anything, right? Spain win, it has no political significance whatsoever. So I will be just looking at the football here and loving the fact that you've got two teams with different styles coming up against each other with two very, very good managers. I have to say, they've really proved that in this tournament. De La Fuente and Scaloni, absolutely fantastic at managing games. So it's one to enjoy. I know some people at this point, English fans, are like, I don't want to watch anything anymore. Well, fair enough. Fair enough. Um, but I'm looking forward to it on Sunday night. I'm going to Madrid tomorrow for a special occasion, coming back on Sunday morning, and I'll watch it. I'll watch this one at home. I'm not going anywhere. All right. Thank you very much for watching. I've really enjoyed making these videos during the World Cup. It's more football analysis than in the fantasy season, usually. And of course, FPL will be soon launched. It will be probably 10 days away from this point. I'm thinking they'll do a week of reveals, of price reveals in social media next week, and then they'll launch it the week after. That's what I'm expecting. And as soon as they launch it, I'll do a video looking at things, players to look at for your FPL team for the 26-27 season. If I don't do a recap of the final next week, I will see you in a couple of weeks. I may very well do one uh, as a recap to the final on Sunday. But thank you so much for watching. Give the video a like. I would really appreciate that. And take care. Bye bye.